Hi, this is Micornus, Phokane, the leader and the founder of Church Governance Solutions. We are dealing with the same topic today. We're dealing with ingredients of developing credibility as a church leader. Ingredients of developing credibility as a church leader. And today I want to pick up on the ingredient called composure. The ingredient called composure in a church leader that will actually help you to develop your credibility. Now, except for some Christian counselors, most Christian leaders have highly ignored or largely ignored as well the emotional dimension of leadership in ministry. And that's something that I want to embark on today. I want to dwell on it to make you aware that many leaders have actually ignored the fact that as leaders is very important that you are actually playing your part of dealing with the emotional fears of the people, the emotional part of leadership. Because how you deal with the emotions of people, how you deal with your own emotion as well as you manage other people is very key as a leader. And that will develop your credibility based on how well are you using emotions in every situation that you're dealing with. And sometimes we leave it to counselors in churches, that they're only ones who are supposed to be counseling people emotionally. But we want to emphasize that every church leader should be able to counsel people emotionally, because people are bruised, as I've mentioned, out in the world. People are hurt. People are emotionally tortured. And therefore, they need the church and the leadership in the church to be able to counsel them. And that's very important that we mention that from just the beginning, because that's the dimension of leadership, to be able to deal with the emotional aspect of the people. In fact, I'm aware of few who give this area an attention. I mean, there are very few people at all that give this area of emotional stability attention, except for those with some exposure to the growing field of emotional intelligence. Because as you realize now, emotional intelligence become a buzzword in the church. Because in the world out there, you will hear a lot about emotional intelligence, but it has not yet been dragged into the church. But we want to emphasize the fact that emotional intelligence should be a buzzword in the church as well, where we deal with people with utter emotional intelligence. Because emotional intelligence will bring respect as well on how you deal with people, how you speak to them, and that will increase credibility. And I'm emphasizing this because it is very important for us to understand that emotional intelligence becomes very important. I suspect that it is because of many pastors are men, and men generally, because of their concept of maleness and masculinity, they tend to be suspicious of anything connected with their emotions. And sometimes they doubt their emotions. They don't want to use emotions. And they'll tell you, man, tigers don't cry, and all those things. And that is the reason why some of the men, they really undermine the power of emotions. And that's the reason why, therefore, they are not using actually emotional approach in the sense of dealing with their own congregants. And I'm saying this with due respect, because I know sometimes as men we basically ignore the emotional part. But people, because as I've said, they're tortured, they're being hurt outside there, their emotions are involved here. And therefore they need people that seems to be caring about emotions. Very important. Now, Satan has convinced the average male in the world, in many cultures, if you realize, that masculinity is all about being emotional tough. And therefore, it's been told that you cannot cry, you cannot be emotional. And therefore, because of that, it has actually hindered the use of emotions as well in the church, or managing emotions of the people in the church. Men aren't supposed to show emotions and accept anger. It is really most of this taught because of cultural backgrounds. But I want to emphasize that it should not be that way in at all, because most of the time when people do that, we always undermine the power of emotions. And I want to emphasize the fact also that when you are not dealing with the emotions of the people properly, you are going to lose credibility. But ability to deal with the emotions of the people actually gains you credibility. And people start to respect you, they start to understand that you understand them well when you understand their emotions. Now, the result is that many men in general, and leaders in particular, they aren't in touch, nor do they want to be in touch with their emotions. And generally, because of that, you find that they run away from dealing with the emotions. And this can have a devastating effect on congregations because they may actually look at the way leaders handle their emotions, creates a culture that sets amongst the climate of saying, in the ministry we don't care, in the ministry we don't care about emotions of people as well. And it will look that way to the people. And that is the reason why I mentioned the fact that people will walk out of church because they will realize that nobody cares about their emotional stability. And that's very, very important. A healthy composure creates a climate where information is shared. Leaders are trusted as well. Learning flourishes and risks are taken as well because people are comfortable. They know that they can use their emotions as much as they can. And people are not doubtful and nobody will judge them as well. And that's the reason why you'll realize that when people are free to express their emotions, the learning culture develops. And also, as I said, trust develops as well. And there's no judgmental spirit as a result. And therefore, you find that everybody becomes comfortable in that particular church. And I'm just mentioning this because it's something that we have observed that many people are actually not using the composure of emotions amongst their leadership style. And therefore, many people don't look at you as a credible person because you don't actually want to face your emotions or you don't want to speak about emotions at all. Now, emotional health is a buzzword right now, and I'm sure you realize that. Now, maturity of individuals is based on how well can they handle their emotions and how well can they manage their emotions. And maturity of a leader is based on also how well are you able to handle the emotions of your people. So display of appropriate emotional health as a leader gives you credibility, as I've mentioned. So therefore, people look up at you. They know that you are caring for them. It's just what we call a positive ministry climate and mood to make sure that people are very, very comfortable, especially in difficult times of crisis as well, where there are so much crisis, and you as a leader steps in with a calm and composed emotional approach. That calms the situation, and it makes people to really trust you, and you become credible before them, particularly when there's crisis at hand. Most importantly, to this discussion strongly, you realize that strong, healthy emotional composure, what it does, it builds leadership credibility. It actually makes people to trust you. While poor composure of the expression of emotions will actually make people not to trust you at all. And therefore, you cannot be credible enough before your people because of that. So very, very important that we mention these issues because it is very important that you remain composed even when it's difficult to do so. You remain composed in the midst of the people. You remain composed in the midst of your congregation. And they look at you to see you to be credible enough because you are composed in everything. Everything that you do, you handle it with calm demeanor, and people can trust you in what you are saying because they know that you have got a great composure or expression of emotions that are appropriate at all times. Now, expression of inappropriate emotions is a silent killer of credibility. And I must really say that most of the people don't have credibility because people doubt you. You best, your emotions cannot be managed, cannot be handled as a leader. And what it does, it discredits you. You cannot be credible enough. You cannot be trusted as well. And that is dangerous for somebody who's a leader because people start doubting if you can be able to handle things. And I want to emphasize that as well. That is very, very important that you keep your composure. To have a composure that leads to ministry, credibility completely, and a leader must develop emotional well-being that fosters a positive and healthy ministry culture. But it needs you to make sure that you're not exposed to pressures, to stress as well as a leader, because you're going to become composed when you are able to handle your emotions, but don't expose your emotions to too much stress and pressure, because when you do so, then you become somebody who is emotionally unstable as a result. The leader must understand as well and then manage his or her own emotions while recognizing the followers' emotions as well, and managing the ensuing relationships with the people. Because if you cannot manage your own emotions, you cannot acknowledge other people's emotions. So please acknowledge other people's emotions and manage your own emotions as well in that regard. Then you become credible as a leader, because that's the way to develop your credibility. But I must also mention that we need to explore to accomplish this in leaders, that we teach that from the beginning, because most of the people just try to find their way of managing their credibility. But I always advise that if you have to go through workshops, you have to go through leadership teachings that speaks particularly about emotional intelligence and application of that. So please attend to those. You will learn quite a lot, and you'll be able to apply that towards your congregation. Then your credibility shall be elevated. I want to end up here today. Your host, Micornus Phokane. Thank you very much for listening to us and be part of this great topic. And I believe that you've gained quite a bit out of it, and you will become a better person after this. May the good Lord bless you. Before we check out, remember our social media platforms, our Facebook page, Micornus Phokane, and that of Church Governance Solutions. And as a result, I would love to refer you as well to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our Facebook pages as well, so that you don't miss any material that would be posted in the future on these platforms. May the good Lord bless you, and allow me to check out right here and say cheers for now.